For step 2 of Quicken, we're going to learn how to enter in transactions. After we've set up our account, we'll be at the Quicken homepage, and we want to get to our checking account so we can enter in the transactions. To do that, I'm going to click on the checking link over on the left-hand column, and that'll bring us to our check register. Now, to enter in the first transaction, I'm going to look at my January monthly transaction sheet. You'll have this sheet and paper in front of you, but follow along and check off the transactions after you make them. I'm going to pay careful attention to the dates and whether or not it's a deposit or a payment. So we're going to make the first transaction together. And if you notice, the date the transaction was made was on January 3rd. And as we can see, it was a deposit. So using that information, we're going to go into our check register. And the first thing we're going to do is change the date to 1/3/15. And to move over to the next column, so we're going to hit tab, the tab button, or we can just click, and that's going to bring us to our number column. And because it's a deposit, which means money coming into our account, I'm going to click deposit. And next I'm going to tab over to the paid by section. This is just a section to add a little bit more detail about where the money came from. So you say who was the paid by, and because it was a paycheck, if we go back to our sheet, we see that it was called paycheck. So going back to our register, I'm just going to write work because it was paid by my job. I'm going to hit tab again, and we're going to come to the memo section. The memo section is a place for you to add notes so that when you go back and look at your different transactions, you know exactly what they were. You don't need to have a memo for each one, but if you want to, we can. So for this one, I'm just going to write in paycheck. And if I tab over one more time, we come to an important column called category. This is where we're actually going to sort our different transactions so that when we go back later and if we wanted to look at our transactions in a pie chart, we can do that. So we are going to go in, and because this was our paycheck, another word for a paycheck or our income from our work is just salary. So I'm going to select salary. Now finally, we have two columns here. We have a payment column and we have a deposit column. So because this is a deposit, I'm going to enter in our amount, our $717.20 into the deposit column. The payment column is reserved for expenses or things that are coming out of your account, things that you're spending money on. The deposit column is for money coming into the account. So after we've entered in all of our information, we're just going to hit enter, and it's going to record our transaction. Now we're going to go through one more transaction together, which is an expense. So if we look back on our monthly transactions, our second transaction was made on January 8th, and we used an electronic funds transfer, or EFT, to pay our electricity bill to National Electric Company. So we're going to go back to our register, and you always start with the date. So we're going to update the day. We're going to change it to 1/8, January 8th, 2015. And if we tab over to the number column, we see that it was an EFT, or an electronic funds transfer. We'll tab over again, and now you can see that the section that was once paid by when we were entering in the deposit is now called Payee. So who did we pay? Well, we paid National Electric Company. And if we tab over for Memo, maybe for this one we know that that was just our electricity, our electric bill. So we can add a memo in there so we know. This again is not necessary, but it helps organize later. And if we tab over again, we can see that the category was actually filled out for us. So if you look back on your transaction sheet, you'll see in parentheses at the end that this was a utilities. So that would be the category that we want to use. And because this automatically filled it as utilities, gas, electric, I'm going to leave it at gas and electric utilities. I could change it and just put general utilities if I wanted to. But if it autofills, I'm going to generally trust it, but I want to double check it. And then clicking over to the payment category, because this was an expense, this is something that we paid for. I'm going to enter in the amount of $35.24 in the payment category. And once I've filled out all of my fields, all the different columns, I'm going to hit enter again. And now we've entered in 2 transactions. And if you can see up at the top here, that's our balance because we had gotten paid $717.20. And then a few days later, we had to pay our electricity bill for $35.24. So Quicken automatically deducts that $35.24, and we have kind of a running balance here. So this balance over here is how much money we have